This is a film that is quite amazing in its rawness and honesty, and the name kind of gives away everything. Smashed. We've got the director and the two main actors here, so let's bring them out. First of all, the director, James Ponsoldt. And we have Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Mr. Aaron Paul. So, you guys are on a bit of a smashed whirlwind right now, really, with this. I mean, everything's just kind of happening with this film. James, you know, one thing it strikes me interesting is you guys won the Dramatic Special Jury Prize Award at Sundance, and now Sony Pictures Classic has this film. Can you tell us a little bit about the process that went from Sundance to Sony?
Yeah, I mean, it was really exciting to, you know, we went into Sundance without distribution, and we had no idea how people were going to respond to the film, and we, you know, tried to set our expectations low. But, you know, when we started talking to Sony Pictures Classics, it was really a dream come true for me, just because they've distributed many of, like, my favorite films ever, and they know how to handle smaller films, you know, that really need sort of a handmade, sort of delicate touch, and they can take it out to a marketplace in a really smart and sensitive way. So, you know, Michael Barker and Tom Bernard there have been sort of running the company for decades, and they're just two of the savviest guys out there and have great taste. So it was an honor and very humbling.
Mary, in a movie that's raw and intimate and honest as this is, about a couple, the two of you, who have some serious drinking problems and the way they deal with it, that scene really kind of sets up the transformation that occurs in the movie. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like for you and getting into that process?
Sure. I mean, James and I pretty much from day one just started working together nonstop. You know, we would just do whatever we could to try and make this character really real and full and human. And I started out going to AA meetings kind of first with Susan, our co-writer, who's in AA and in recovery, and that was amazing. And also just spending a lot of time working with James on her backstory and on my own kind of backstory and figuring out how they merged together and how we could kind of make that into one.
Now, Aaron, your character, her husband, he's not so much with the stopping drinking.
No. No. Hi, everybody. Yeah, no, he just, you know, he's always known this relationship as just a boozing relationship. He's never been with his wife in a sober way. And I think that's really what brought them together, drinking. They just had so much fun drinking together. I mean, when you see this film, this couple is obviously madly in love, but they're all obviously madly in love with drinking as well. And when she decides to put down the bottle, it kind of throws a wrench into the whole routine of things for my character.
One of the things that you'll see, and maybe we can talk about it a little bit, we'll show the next clip in a second, is there's a tremendous physical and emotional transformation that you go through that it is actually, while tremendous, is quite subtle.
Well, you know, the story began with my friendship with Susan Burke, my co-writer, and I've known her for years. She's a comedian, and she's also sober. She started going to AA in her early 20s. And it started with us just sharing, trying to one-up each other with stories of dumb things that we'd done while we were drunk. And she's done way stupider things than I have. But she has a great perspective, and what's really, I think, unique about it is there's no pity. Like when she talks about her stories, self-pity. And she doesn't, there's no sort of like, oh my gosh, this was horrible. It's totally just normal and relatable, and all of her stories start in very sort of mundane, you know, it was happy hour at TGI Fridays, and we were drinking, and then cut to they're in Reno at a dog track, and she's waking up next to a dumpster. And that's sort of, and they're kind of random and funny and strange, but, you know, what we wanted to do first and foremost was not to make a message film. You know, this isn't a social issue film. This is a love story, you know, it's a coming-of-age story, and we wanted to do something, I mean, there's some great films that have been made long before this that dealt with alcoholism, but we wanted to do something that spoke to people of our generation and that had humor.
Yeah, I mean, this whole film was just, it was incredible for me because it was really the first time that I ever felt like I had done so much character work leading up to it that I really felt like the character when I was doing it. So it's sort of hard to say, how did you do that scene? Because it really was, I just sort of was there and I felt like I was going through what she was going through. And it was so linked up to my own emotions and my own past and my own feelings on specific things in my life that it became pretty easy to access those places, you know, with the help of everybody involved in the film, the other actors and James, who were all, you know, so authentic and helped, you know, bring that every single day. It was really surreal and amazing to kind of to get to that point as an actor.
You know, working with this girl right here is just the goal as an actor is just to truly get lost in the scenes that you're playing and really feel that you're living those moments. And sometimes it actually does happen. You feel like you're living those moments. And with her, it was like that every day. It was a blessing.
James, can you talk a little bit about that and why you made that decision? There's lots of things just are never learned. It's like conversation with real people.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with a film like this, it was very important that we weren't trying to send a message that if you stop drinking, everything will get great in your life, or if you start going to AA, everything will get great. I mean, it's much more ambiguous, and this really was about the relationship. And we wanted a film that was hopeful, but you know, in many ways, I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't seen it, but you know, the ending is something, I guess, of almost like a Rorschach test for the audience, and really maybe whether you believe that this is a couple that should be together, you know, whether you buy into the romance of this young and drunk thing that they have, or whether you think it's sort of codependent, enabling, and toxic, maybe just depends on the audience member's own personal history being in relationships with people that have been addicted to something. So, you know, I think an audience gets much more engaged when they're not lectured at, and especially when you're dealing with a subject like alcoholism, like it can get really movie of the week or sterile or just like not fun quickly. And we really wanted something that, you know, audience members my parents' age or my like young cousins who are in college at age that they could really actually relate to and see themselves in, where the goal was total identification with these characters and never objectifying them in service of just giving a big showy performance.
I was scared of it, to be honest, to begin with, because I thought, you know, I'm playing this character who's going through something really serious, and if I'm trying to be funny, I'm going to totally lose track of the reality of what it is I'm trying to play. And so before we shot it, I was kind of stressed and scared of the comedy aspect of it. But then once we got into it, it was so natural, and everyone involved had such a natural sense of humor that even when they're playing a dramatic scene, it might veer into comedy just because that's part of their personality. And what I really appreciated about working on this film and working with James is that you didn't have to shut any part of yourself off.
This film is a real homage to L.A. That L.A. is a character in this film.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we shot this almost exclusively in Highland Park, also a little bit of Glassell Park, Cypress Park, and Boyle Heights, and it was very intentional. So often, you know, L.A., it's in tons of films, but rarely is it articulated that it's L.A. It's a surrogate for another city, or it's an abstract place. And there's so many vital, very specific neighborhoods. And what we really wanted to express with Highland Park, while this isn't sort of a political allegory about gentrification, is that it is a neighborhood that is evolving in the way that other East Side neighborhoods like Echo Park and Silver Lake did. And, you know, it's a neighborhood where there's businesses, you know, taquerias, whatever, you know, corner stores that have been owned by the same family, usually Latino, for 50 years. And then you have this young white couple that comes in and buys a house, and they're like drinking 40s and riding their bicycles down the street. And it's changing, but I mean, it's a really beautiful place, and you feel that tension and you feel that history, and we really wanted to make it a place that for people that know that part of LA where they felt like it was profoundly captured, and then for people that don't know LA, we didn't use any of the big signifiers of LA. There's no Walk of Fame or Hollywood Bowl. It in a lot of ways could be outside of Pittsburgh or Chicago or somewhere else.
Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Smash,
Thank you
Sony
guys.
Pictures Classic.